have. This is the tail end of the last chunk. You'll notice they're all color-coded. Now what we want to know is, are all populations of organisms always evolving? Is this something that's happening all the time? Are there populations that aren't evolving? That's really the big question that we have now. So what we're going to talk about in this chapter is the conditions under which evolution does and does not occur. In other words, when does evolution actually happen? Where does evolution actually happen? So by the end of this, you're going to be able to look at factors that affect a population of whatever species: rabbits, maple trees, humans, squid, jellyfish, sparrows, I don't care what it is. And you're going to be able to look at that population and look at the conditions they're under and say, would we expect that that population is evolving or not? That's pretty powerful. That's actually pretty powerful predictive science. And that's what we like, is being able to predict stuff. So, remember what that's called? Hint, hint, the answer's on the slide. It's called a distribution. If you recall, it is a distribution. We did distributions of ear length. We did distributions of pinky length, head circumference, height, arm span. We did distributions of all kinds of things. We can talk about distributions of leaf size, of sugar content in the sap. We can talk about distributions. You can tell maple syrup's on my mind. I look out and I see the trees and I think, ooh, soon they will be tapping the trees. I love maple syrup. So we can do a distribution of just about any characteristic of a species. It shows us that there's variation in the population. If there's no variation, it's kind of pointless to do a distribution because you have a single bar. If every member of a species is 5 feet 7 inches tall, life is boring, but we don't need to do a distribution. If all members of a species have 50% chlorophyll A and 50% chlorophyll B, there's no distribution, there's no variation. If there's no variation in a species, we don't need a distribution. Distributions also show us how a trait is spread out among all the members of the population. Oh, look, very few rabbits have 12 centimeter ears and very few rabbits have 4 centimeter ears. We can actually, if we've got one that's better graphed than that example, we can look at what percentage of individuals have some particular value for some particular trait. So we can say, well, according to this bar graph, 39% of all rabbits have 8 centimeter ears. You could have done that with the data from your variation lab. You could have looked at what percentage of individuals were 170 centimeters tall. What percentage of individuals had 20 centimeter hand spans? Okay, so far this is still just descriptive. We're just describing the data. We are just sort of charting it. But can a distribution change? Does it change? What do we call it when they do? What do we call it when a distribution changes? When Stubby's little descendants, Stubby, my short-eared rabbit friend, evolution! Oh, good. That's because you're clever. Well, I also try not to stop the conversation when I hear one person get the right answer, because then nobody else tries. That's why I do that whole talking at your tables thing. Do you know why I do that? Tell the people at your table. Because here's what happens if I say, okay, what is it? Okay, Jacob, what is it? And Jacob gives the right answer. Then everybody else stops thinking. Actually, the minute Jacob raises his hand or the minute the teacher calls on somebody, everybody else's brain shuts off. Oh, I don't have to think about it. Where if you talk to the people at your table, this is neurobiology of learning. If you talk to the people at your table and you compare your answers, your brain is still active. Your brain is still moving. And we want your brain moving. That's the goal. Okay, so when distributions change, we call that evolution. Because remember that it is what evolution really is. Well, it's the shifting of traits or gene frequencies in a population. It is the shifting of traits and gene frequencies in a population. hand distributions change? You bet. Do they always change? Not necessarily. When it's non-changing, what we're talking about is something that is at equilibrium. What does equal mean? You did your vocab, you did your pre-knowledge. You know what equals means. The same as. Yeah, it's on the slide, I know. Yeah, equal means the same. If you're dividing up the pecan pie at Thanksgiving, you better make sure everybody gets an equal piece. The pumpkin pie. You get the whole pie. Well, okay. When a population is at what we call genetic equilibrium, nothing's changing. The gene frequencies are not shifting. The distribution of traits is not changing. And for us to say that a population is at equilibrium, we have to see this staying the same for generations. We're going to start to talk more in terms of generations now. But if the population doesn't change over many generations, if we don't see shifts in gene frequency, we don't see shifts in how a trait is distributed, we would say that, oh, this population is at equilibrium. It's not changing. And if you notice, what kind of distribution is this? Do you remember? Talk about it at your table. What's this distribution called? Two different words that we use for it. I heard some people say, what is that distribution called? What is that distribution called? Normal! Normal distribution! It's a normal distribution. We also sometimes describe it as a bell curve. Okay? So, when the population is at equilibrium, the distribution is not changing. We're going to get boing, boing, boing any second here. So, tomorrow, if you are not going on the field trip, you will have a small alternative assignment, or you can be working on rewrites. Actually, you know what? I'll let you work on rewrites. I'd like to give you an alternative assignment. We'll see. You'll be surprised. Surprise! When you come in. So, questions, comments, concerns? 9? Yes. That's it.